Saints. My name is Reverend Dr. Debbie Clark, and I'm convener of the Framingham Interfaith Community Association. I'm the multi-faith coordinator for Open Spirit, a place of hope, health, and harmony, and I'm pastor of Edwards Church, an open and affirming congregation of the United Church of Christ. We are proud to be among a number of spiritual communities, many of them represented today in Framingham, that celebrate that each of us is beloved, beautiful, and gifted just as we are because of who we are. I am delighted to be here today as your MC. This is the 5th year that we have held a pride flag raising ceremony in Framingham. It's the 3rd year we have chosen to raise the Pride Progress flag. This flag incorporates the rainbow flag that was first used in 1978 in San Francisco for a Gay Freedom Day parade. It also incorporates an awareness that there is still much progress yet to happen, that there are more walls to tear down, that there are more injustices to be challenged. And so the Pride Progress flag, created in 2018 by Daniel Quasar, adds a chevron, an arrow, to show that while we have made progress, there is still much to be done. The chevron, as you can see if the wind blows, has 5 colors. White, pink, and light blue are from the transgender pride flag. And they remind us that transgender folks were central to the pride movement from the very beginning and still face terrible discrimination and danger and are facing a particular backlash right now. Brown and black in the chevron honor the gifts and contributions of people of color to the LGBTQ movement, acknowledging the ways that they have been marginalized in our community and naming our challenge to address the intersection of race, ethnicity, gender identity, and sexual orientation. This flag is a promise of who we are and an acknowledgement that we have not yet lived into the promise of who we can be. May we raise it as a commitment to keep working to live into that promise. As we prepare to raise this flag, we hear words of inspiration from a variety of community speakers. Our first speaker is our mayor, the Honorable Charlie Sisitsky, who will be reading a proclamation in recognition of Pride Month.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I do have a proclamation to read today in honor of June, the month of June being Pride Month. Whereas Framingham is proud to be home to several outstanding LGBT, louder? How's that? Okay? All right, good. Whereas Framingham is proud to be home to several outstanding LGBTQIA plus support organizations, including Out MetroWest, which for more than a decade has been providing positive role models, challenging all systems of oppressions, and creating supportive spaces to respect, embrace, and celebrate LGBTQ plus youth, and Framingham Glass, who create a supportive community for LGBTQ plus youth of color and their allies through community space, groups, and services. And whereas Framingham affirms its commitment to protect and serve everyone who resides in, works in, or visits without discrimination, as well as its belief in the dignity, equality, and constitutional and civil rights of all people. And whereas the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and asexual plus communities are an integral part of the vibrant culture and climate of the city of Framingham. And whereas Framingham embraces diversity in all forms, including gender, race, age, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious beliefs and ability, And whereas the month of June is designated National Pride Month, honoring the history and achievements of the LGBTQIA plus community, and commemorates the anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, which occurred in June of 1969, and is recognized as the start of the LGBTQIA plus rights movement. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we, Mayor Charlie Sisitsky, Framingham Superintendent of Schools Robert Tremblay, Framingham City Council, and the Framingham School Committee declare the month of June 2024 to be Pride Month in the City of Framingham. We ask members of the Framingham community to respect, honor, and recognize the enduring efforts and ongoing contributions of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and asexual plus members of our community. And we urge all residents to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next speaker is Jesse Edwards, our Framingham Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. Jesse has been the chair of the team that has been planning this. I am delighted to welcome you here, and I'm so delighted that you are doing the work of challenging our city today and every day to live into our values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Welcome.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Reverend Clark. Before I go any further, I have to give a shout out to the planning committee, who was really instrumental in putting a lot of hard work and effort into planning this event. So if you're on the planning committee, can you please just maybe raise your hand and maybe give you a round of applause? Thank you, thank you. I promise my remarks will be brief. Thank you all for coming out to on this beautiful Sunday afternoon to help us kick off the beginning of Pride Month. Pride is a celebration of our LGBTQIA plus brothers and sisters who have fought bravely, sometimes with their lives, to openly and freely be authentic. I stand before you today proud to say that our mayor, Charlie Sisitsky, believes and supports this mission. As the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion yes, give it up for the mayor. As the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, I have been empowered on many levels. One example is over the past few months leading up to this event, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office has provided face-to-face training to many City of Framingham employees on issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, identity awareness, harassment and discrimination prevention in the workplace. These inclusive workshops are an important element in recognizing the unique perspectives that each of us brings in our interactions with people we work with on a daily basis. Nonetheless, we are just getting started. The next phase involves you, our community. I look forward to working closely with you and our community partners on how we take this work beyond the walls of the Memorial Building. My colleague and planning committee member, Renan, shared with me some very powerful words that I think are perfect for this moment. Raising the pride flag holds deep significance beyond mere decoration. The flag carries profound meaning for many, for the young who are still afraid to come out, for the older generation who never had the chance to be open about their identity, and for our community as a constant reminder that our hard-won rights can be swiftly taken away if we don't stand together united. Today, we stand united to honor the progress we have made and to recommit ourselves to the ongoing fight for equality and acceptance. Pride is not just a celebration, it's a reminder of the work that still needs to be done. Thank you for being here today and for your continued dedication to making our city of Framingham more inclusive and welcoming. Happy Pride Month, this month, every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse and Renan, for those powerful words. And now I welcome City Council Chair Phil Ottaviani Jr.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll apologize for being overdressed. I had to come right from work, but an event I'd never miss. This is our 6th annual celebration. And on behalf of the City Council, my fellow colleagues that are here today, Councilor Leslie White Harvey, Councilor Leora Malik, thank you all for being here today. Today we celebrate the LGBTQIA plus community and a very basic concept about being kind. Okay, this is something, when I became a father, my life changed. I'll be honest with all of you. You lead by example, just like he said, not by proclamations and different things like that. And, that's what life's all about, to be kind to one another, treat people the way we want to be treated. And it turns out to be a pretty good life if you can do that. And I'm happy to be here today to celebrate with all of you. And looking forward to the next event. And thank you all for being here today on such a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. So just about 15 minutes ago, it was my pleasure to meet Mel Pache, the new Executive Director of Out MetroWest. Out MetroWest continues to play a vital role in our community. Out MetroWest creates supportive, affirming, safe spaces. This program, headquartered in Framingham, serves lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender youth from across MetroWest Boston. It's a place where youth can be themselves. So Mel, thank you for being here. There she is. There. Come on. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Happy Pride. My name is Mel Pache. My pronouns are they or she. And as shared, I'm the Executive Director of Out MetroWest, where we strive to build communities where LGBTQ plus youth thrive. I'm new to the Out MetroWest team, and so I can't think of a better way to celebrate that than to be here with all of you today celebrating Pride. This afternoon, I was asked to share a little bit about my vision for Out MetroWest, for the future of the organization. And that's not something that I, as an individual, hold. I don't hold the key to that vision on my own, but I do have a dedication to ensure collaboration, centering youth voice, collaborating with the Out MetroWest team, and collaborating with all of our community partners. This opportunity to collaborate and co-create together has me very excited to celebrate Pride with all of you here today. I'm feeling very grateful this afternoon, feeling both grateful and committed. I'm grateful to the fabulous staff and team of volunteers at Out MetroWest who've been helping me to learn my new job. I'm grateful to the City of Framingham Pride Committee and all of you who are gathered here today. And I'm grateful to my trans and queer ancestors. Ancestors that I'm not related to by birth or by blood, but connected to in a celebration of glitter and grit. The trans and queer ancestors who have fought tirelessly to make the world a safer and more affirming space for the LGBTQ plus community. May we have half of their courage to continue the fight for our rights, freedoms, and protections. I'm grateful for the trans and queer ancestors who made it possible for me to live as an out queer and genderqueer person, who have created safe havens, and who made it possible for us to gather in affirming spaces. I'm grateful for the trans women of color and the drag performers who held that riot and who led that riot in 1969 because they were tired of the violence and the oppression of the LGBTQ plus community. Their riot at the Stonewall Inn was the catalyst for our annual Pride celebrations. So every June, I try to recommit myself to keeping their spirit alive as I strive toward liberation. Liberation for the LGBTQ plus community, bound together with the liberation for all people who are marginalized, oppressed, or experience violence, together building a more inclusive and joyful future. A future that we must live into creation by our words and our actions. a future that honors the spirit of our ancestors, values the wisdom of our elders, and centers the leadership of our youth. It is our young people who remind me time and again that our communities, our shared spaces, our way of being in the world together can be more affirming, more accessible, and more understanding. I'm excited to partner together with everyone at Out MetroWest in support of LGBTQ youth, where I know that the future of the organization will center youth voice. Who better to tell us what young people need than young people? Who better to invite us into a more inclusive and liberative way of living than young people? My hope for Out MetroWest and the wider LGBTQ+ community of Framingham and the MetroWest region is that we allow the youth to guide us, empower their leadership, and learn from their experiences. Our future as a trans and queer community will be more inclusive through this intergenerational work. So as we celebrate Pride today, let's remember the riotous ancestors who fought for our right to be here. Let's learn from the wisdom of our elders, and let's appreciate the leadership of our young people who challenge our expectations in the most beautiful ways. And let's celebrate together with joy. Happy Pride, everyone.
Thank you, Mel. Welcome to our community. I know that you are going to be a force for transformation and for inviting us all into a deeper experience of listening to each other and especially listening to our young people. So thank you. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Representative Jack Lewis. Jack Patrick Lewis serves as state representative for the 7th Middlesex District, Ashland, and parts of Framingham. He is a committed father, husband, former nonprofit leader, and ordained minister. With a lifelong dedication to public service and progressive ideals, Jack pledges to continue representing the residents of Framingham and Ashland on Beacon Hill as their state representative. Early in his life, Jack became an Eagle Scout, volunteered on a major gubernatorial campaign, served as a habituation assistant for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. These experiences taught him to celebrate diversity and provide the groundwork for his future educational and professional pursuits. Fueled by a passion for social justice, in his capacity as a community leader, Jack helped create the origins of Out MetroWest in 2011. In his capacity as executive director, Jack served over 700 students and their families by offering supportive services, leadership development, and youth empowerment. These programs have enhanced and helped protect the lives of countless area teens. Jack and his spouse Brent live in Framingham with their sons. Jack is also an active member of the Framingham Democratic Town Committee and a former member of the School Health Advisory Council of Framingham Public Schools and Framingham Community Partners. Jack has taken and continues to take his experiences to Beacon Hill to be an advocate for the residents of Framingham and Ashland. As a local community leader and parent, he knows that when our towns and our Commonwealth succeed, it is easier for our families and schools to do the same. Please help me welcome Representative Jack Patrick Lewis.
That bio just kept going and going. It doesn't matter how many years I've done this work, it still continues to be awkward when somebody introduces you and reminds you how many years have gone by since you've started doing this work together. Happy Pride! As previous speakers have said, this may have started as a riot, but it is also a celebration, and we must celebrate today, outwardly and in our hearts, and to take this celebratory spirit with us back to school, back to our homes, back to our places of worship, back into our lives. 20 years ago, as I sat in my dorm room in Utah, I watched as the Supreme Judicial Court here in Massachusetts found our state's ban on same-sex marriage unconstitutional. It was a day that would change my life in ways I am still only beginning to wrap my mind around. As much as I don't like to remind people that I'm not from Massachusetts, at the time I had never even been to Massachusetts. I could have found it on a map, but beyond that, there was nothing that I thought in my future that would likely have ever brought me here. I instead had sort of come to terms with the reality that my life was going to be different than maybe it could have been, with a whole lot less joy and honesty. Instead, that day, on C-SPAN, yes, I was a political nerd even back then, I realized that maybe that future I had accepted for myself didn't have to happen. And seemingly overnight, everything changed. I watched in the months and years that followed legislators, people who still work in the legislature, folks that I have the honor of serving with now, people like our local state senator and Senate President Karen Spilka, our current Speaker of the House Ron Mariano, and locally here, the Natick State Rep David Linsky, who ignored the polling, they ignored all the angry phone calls and letters. They reminded me the other day that there were emails back then, they just didn't get as many, but they ignored largely their loudest constituents, which I can tell you as an elected official is hard to do, and they did the right thing. They ignored the pushback from the governor at the time, and they did everything in their power to make sure that marriage equality wasn't a small blip in US history. I never could have imagined, fast forward 20 years, that I'd be living in Massachusetts, that I'd be serving with these individuals. I never thought that I'd be an out gay guy, an elected official. There aren't that many of us still, but there are more than there were 20 years ago. That I would, and if any of you have any interest in running for office, there are organizations and people like myself who want to support you, but I couldn't have imagined it as a possibility in my dorm room. I couldn't have imagined that 20 years later I'd be happily married, or at least as happily married as any of us ever are on good and bad days. You straight folks didn't tell us about that reality when we fought for it 20 years ago. But that I have kids, and that on days like today I'd have to balance like getting kids breakfast and mowing the grass and getting to band concerts and also like getting to work on time. I never thought I'd have those stresses and those joys in my life. But 55 years ago, as the previous speaker said, drag queens and trans folk took off their heels and fought back because their lives were on the line. Gay men who had been forced out of their families and churches and towns, who had tried to find community in places like New York City, picked up bricks and fought back because their lives were on the line. Pride began that day not with a proclamation or a scheduled list of speakers. There wasn't a Supreme Court case that we can point back to, or even a small group discussion, as much as the political church nerd in me loves all of those things. No, it started with folks fighting for their very right to exist. And today, none of us up here are going to tell you that you need to pick up a brick. You don't need to get arrested. We're not asking that you put your lives on the line. But what we are asking you to do is to fight back against the silence, to put in the time and treasures, and maybe even put some of those relationships that we hold dear with friends and family on the line when it comes to doing what we need to do. We mustn't allow ourselves to be drawn into conversations about the First Amendment rights of those who seek to harm us, who seek to bully us, who seek to harass us back into the closets. We must do everything in our power to outwardly disassociate ourselves from those who seek to do us and those we love harm, because lives are still on the line. We mustn't make excuses for those who maybe feel like they're in a different generation or have a different belief system. We need to have faith in one another, that we are all constantly learning and growing. We need to believe in one another, bringing grace into these sometimes difficult conversations. But when hate is typed on social media, or uttered in passing as a joke on the soccer fields or in the locker room or around the water cooler at work. We must remember that lives are on the line and that our silence equals death. There are those in our own community, across Massachusetts, as hard as it may be to believe, and across the country and world, who see their view of the world closing around them. A world with outdated stereotypes of what it means to be a man or a woman, what it means to be a family or in a relationship, with narrowly defined beliefs that are just as narrow as their mindsets. But these people exist. Many of them have learned what not to say. Some of them have evolved and come a long way, and almost all of us can reflect back on relationships we have with people that have changed and grown in ways we never imagined possible. If I had more than 10 minutes, I would share a couple stories of my Irish Catholic grandma and some of the conversations we had, and how much I am grateful that I ignored some of the advice of others of focusing on talking about the weather, and only the weather. Because in doing that, my grandmother wouldn't have had a chance to meet my husband or my kids before she passed. We also need to be aware that there are those who are intentionally fanning the flames of hate in our country and around the world. People who have empowered hate mongers and cyber trolls to come out of the shadows and make a last-ditch effort to stop the progress that many of you, many of us, have fought for generations to secure. Their efforts are not spontaneous. They're not random. They are an orchestrated effort not only to go back to a time before marriage equality 20 years ago, but back to a time before bodily autonomy, before a time when we had the right to decide when, how, and if to start a family. A time before any of us had the right to decide what that family would look like or who would be in it. Back to a time before the civil rights advancements of every civil rights movement in our lifetimes and those of our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. This is a time, though, that they're not just coming after my marriage license. We know they are. They're hoping and pushing us back to a time where my family, like many of yours, has to be worried if we cross the state border without the copy of the birth certificates and all of the other documents to prove we are the parents of our kids. But this time, they're showing their real purpose. They're coming for trans kids. They're working to legislate hate, restrict youth access to everything from library books to healthcare. They are working to make our lives so difficult, so uncomfortable, that many of us feel that we have no option but to go back into the closet, that closet we have worked so hard to come out of. At best, they want us to go away and be quiet. At worst, there are those who are unapologetic about a world to go back to that never existed, but a world of their fantasies in which none of us even exist. Today we need to celebrate. Today we need to be joyous. Today we need to remember that being queer, being a part of the LGBTQ family, comes with great freedoms. We also need to remember. Is everything all right? Okay. Thumbs up, excellent. We also need to remember, though, that Pride started as a riot, and we need to do everything in our power to bring the urgency that those drag queens and trans folks and gay men brought 50 years ago in Stonewall. We can't deceive ourselves, especially here in Massachusetts, into thinking that somehow we have arrived on this issue. I hear this all the time, sometimes even from people within the LGBTQ community themselves who say, haven't we gone far enough? The reality, though, is we actually haven't journeyed that far at all. And we can't just pacify ourselves by saying, at least we're in a different place than we were 20 years ago. At least we're in a different place than those flyover states or states of the former Confederacy or whatever states or countries we want to dismiss as other. The reality is we have to worry about our own rights in our own backyards and the rights of trans and queer folks in those other states and countries as well. I'll admit, though, I fell for this myself. When my dream came true and I left finally seminary in Missouri and moved to Massachusetts 14 years ago, I thought that I had arrived. I had got to the end of the rainbow. Finally, I could ask my husband to marry me. We could have the joy of parenthood that everyone tells me is a daily occurrence, and everything was going to be great. But almost exactly to the date that I started my job at the Unitarian Church in Wellesley, the phone rang. 2 moms were calling on separate phone calls for support and helping their recently out kids get the support and meet other LGBTQ folk. It was in that moment that I realized that while marriage equality felt like the end of the rainbow for me, if you were a young person trying to get through high school or middle school or even elementary school, in college, I didn't come out till college. If you're a young person who doesn't feel safe and supported at home or in your faith community, if you don't feel safe going into the locker room or walking down the hallway, if you can't be guaranteed medically accurate curriculum in health class, if you can't feel like there's other adults in your life that look like you, yes, marriage equality might sound great decades down the road, and yes, being told life gets better by healthy and vibrant trans adults might give you something to look forward to. But the reality was, for these youth and the youth that came to our first meeting when we launched out MetroWest, marriage and the reality that things got better was insufficient. It was those youth that still inspire me. I love my day job, but there are regular Monday nights where I miss being surrounded by 30 queer and trans youth. But it was their asks of me. It was their demands that fuel my work in the legislature, more so than maybe I'll admit most days other than at Pride events. It was because of them that I've devoted the last 8 years to working with colleagues to ban conversion therapy, to extend non-discrimination protections in all aspects of our lives, to expand access to HIV prevention medication, to extend veteran bonuses to those who were dishonorably discharged because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It's because of them that we now invest funding into programs so that LGBTQ seniors aren't forced back into the closet in their golden years. It's because of them that we work to make sure HIV preventative services are fully funded. It's because of them that we make sure that gender-affirming care and reproductive health care is not only guaranteed in Massachusetts, regardless of limitations your parents may try to put on you, but that our state now is a beacon for those who have to flee their home states because their governors and legislators, fueled by nothing short of hate, have forced them to leave their homes to receive the same care and support they deserve right here. So this Pride Month, I want us to celebrate everything we've done in the last 8 to 20 years here in Massachusetts. We continue to lead by example, but the work is far from over. Let us today and every day celebrate our friends and family. Let us rejoice in our movement together. Let us remember that Pride is, yes, about having fun and enjoying the thrills of being ourselves in this LGBT liberated space. But that until we have collective liberation, until we have collectively combated successfully misinformation, hate, and bigotry, Pride is not sufficient and Pride is not yet realized. Let us confront this hate and this urgency that lives are still on the line with that same urgency that those drag queens confronted the riots with and the police with 50 years ago. This work together needs allies, not self-proclaimed allies, not just folks who come to events like this or occasionally put on pride bracelets. Even members of our own community can fall for this. But what we need are true friends, committed leaders in government, defenders in the classroom and on the pulpit. We require accomplices and partners in this struggle to defend our hard-fought freedoms, celebrate the joys of being queer and trans, and the blessings and freedoms that come to all of us for living in an inclusive, liberated society. Happy Pride.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. So this is the part that I look forward the most every year. It's the time we hear from members of the Framingham High School GSA. I believe that Sarah Wolf, one of the GSA officers, is speaking first. Come on up, Sarah.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Wolf and I'm the president of the GSA at Framingham High School. Today we are all here for Pride Month, but what is Pride Month? Well, Pride Month is a time for everyone to celebrate love, to come together, to raise spirits, to show who they are, and to be prideful. I personally can show who I am through performances like dance and theater. I'm 17, I'm driving, and I can use my voice to show who I am as a person. And Pride can do the same. The flag we are raising today stands for love, healing, harmony, spirit, and community. My first year as a GSA officer, I talked about my grandmother in my speech and how I regret never being my full self around her. I always say my family is the most prideful, supportive group of people. They are here today, and they are dressed in as much rainbow as I am. But one year at my aunt's house, I was talking about my accomplishments as a GSA officer, and I was told things like, why would I spend time with gay people? And you aren't gay, right? And one of my older cousins' transgender friends who was not there was being invalidated right in front of me. I was supposed to spend the night there with the rest of my family, but as my tears fell full of betrayal and sadness, my mom took me on the 4-hour car ride home in the middle of the night so I could get away. 1 year later, my youngest cousin made a friend that was transgender, and my extended family's point of view changed. They were supportive of them. Not as much as they could have been, but it was a start. Pride Month is a time to educate others, and maybe that's why my family changed their point of view. Pride Month is also a time to listen to LGBTQ+ voices. It was Tammy Baldwin who said, "There will not be a magic day when we wake up and it's now okay to express ourselves publicly. We make that day by doing things publicly until it's simply the way things are." So that is why we are here today. That's why we're here today, to make Pride into just the way things are. Happy Pride, thank you.
And Topher McGarry.
Hello, everybody. My name is Topher McGarry, and I am the publicity officer of the Framingham High School GSA. Last year, I stood before you like I am now. I believe that 2 days or the night before, I had just come out to my parents as trans. And I am so grateful of how accepting they've been. I do really think that there is something so important in not just pride among LGBTQ+ individuals, but also our allies. One of the biggest things an ally can do is be proud of those in the LGBTQ+ community, no matter what stage they are in their life or coming out process. So shout out to all of the allies in the crowd today. Shout out to my mom. Go on, raise your hand, raise your hand. There we go, don't be shy, be proud. You see what I did there? It's so important that we all lift each other up as a community. Not just as a community, but as humans. So, we're gonna do a quick little chant, all right? When I say we are, you guys are gonna say proud, okay? Got it? Got it? We are! Proud! We are! Proud! We are! Proud! Oh, I can hear you. I can't hear you. Come on. We are! Proud! We are! Proud! Thank you.
Thank you, but don't go away because we would like the two of you, along with Representative Jack Patrick Lewis, to raise the pride flag. Jack? Thank you all. What a powerful expression amongst our various speakers of every single one of the colors of the chevron and of the rainbow, a celebration of pride, a commitment to say we are not done, a challenge to remember our ancestors, to keep speaking up, to keep working to broaden and expand, and to recognize the ways we are all learning and growing together. Thank you to all of our speakers. And I will invite Jesse back up to the podium for a few.
Thank you, Dr. Reverend Clark, for serving as our MC for today's festivities. Every year, well, at least the past 2 years that I've been here and part of this event, you've done an amazing job, so hats off to you. Thank you very much. I'd also like to just acknowledge Dr. Robert Tremblay, Superintendent of Framingham Public Schools. And I'd be remiss if I did not at least mention, if you look to my right, you'll see the big letters love. Those were donated by Party Rental Express at 20 Concord Street. So please show your support and love for that organization. Viva's Flower Shop, which is located at 798 Concord Street, right down here. On your left, they donated, there's carnations that are going around. So if you've received one, that's where that's from. And right before the start of this event, I planned on DJing, but I was called to come down and help, organize what I planned. And I gave about a 20-second tutorial on how to do it to Renan. So Renan, thank you. You're now our resident DJ. Thank you. I look forward to continued success of this program, and thank you all for coming today. Feel free to hang out, enjoy some popcorn, hot dogs. Thank you.